Hey everyone, let me get this link shared out. Just sharing in the Discord. I hope you're all doing well. Hey everyone. All right, we'll give people a minute to get in here. But taking a look at Bitcoin, we'll take a look at ETH. I am long on ETH, but I did take a stop. And I'll explain why I'm long. Let's just see a couple things. Okay, so on ETH, I took a stop here. I had this idea of longing in here. I took a stop and I've re-entered. And the reason I've re-entered is we've swept this low. There's still valid corrective ideas here. And I'm going to talk about why I expect higher on Bitcoin and ETH as the most likely outcome, but there are no certainties. And obviously sometimes timing the low can be hard, believe it or not. But anyways, I think this long was actually reasonable. And I'm happy to be long here. If I get stopped again, that's okay. But let's talk about Bitcoin, which has just missed my stop. And there was this ascending triangle idea. And the idea was to rally off of the E. And I've been trading this. I actually longed here with the idea of predicting a C coming in based on order flow. And I was looking for this D, and I actually had the plan to short the D as a hedge against a breakdown. And I was looking for the D to tap this ascending structure and sweep this high, which it did, but I was asleep, so I missed the short from the exact top. I think some of the people in the Discord got it because I had made it clear that that's where I was going to short. So it would be nice to have that short running as a hedge in case we do just have a breakdown, but I do have plenty of other shorts. I did just take profits off my Sol short as this was a major target, sweeping these lows into this golden pocket. And I have a Matic short and a wave short. But the reason I'm long on Bitcoin here primarily is, let's just look at this in Coinalyze here. It's not just the structural ideas for continuation and an Elliott wave count, but we have developing bullish absorption. And on this last little leg here, right here, this bullish absorption got extreme. So we had a massive decrease in CVD. So tons of aggressive selling coming in. That's both longs closing and shorts opening. You can see that in the cumulative volume delta, we go from negative 63 million to negative 131 million. So our negative delta here has decreased to be equivalent to when we were at these lows at 21.5K before we rallied. But price is certainly making a higher high. And you can even point out this bullish absorption between these highs. So this, from an order flow perspective, is, and I don't want anyone to take this to mean that we will go up and you should take a huge position because it's a guarantee, because even with bullish absorption, price can still run liquidity and whatever. But you have to get long somewhere for some reason that makes sense. And as we rallied here, I did take a long here, and I was expecting a push up, and I was expecting to add to my longs. That was my plan. I've executed my plan. And frankly, if I took a stop here and we bounce, I would likely just re-enter because this bullish absorption is significant. It's it makes it very likely that we push up through the highs, and we have something similar on ETH. So it's just to say that we're putting the probabilities in our favor when we're looking at something like this and taking a position at support with this in our favor. So that's what I'm looking at. And I'm explaining, not in any way encouraging anyone what they should do. I'm explaining what I'm doing. And that's all I'm doing. So I'm telling you what I'm doing and why. So I'm still fine to be in this long. One thing about Elliott waves is they there's some contention about this, but for anyone who knows Elliott waves, Prechter himself says that if you're trading a leveraged asset, wicks on highly leveraged assets do not invalidate counts. So that is always something to consider. If there's a quick liquidity grabbing wick, if there was ever a leveraged asset, it's Bitcoin and cryptos in general. So it's not something that you should anticipate that a count is going to that you can just have any count work because, oh, it's just a wick, but it is something that you can allow for if it still makes sense. So based on the the massive amount of longs that got stopped out, I certainly consider this potentially just a wick through this level, and we still haven't taken the C. So the invalidation is taking the C anyways. But what am I expecting? Well, currently I'm expecting this to see continuation, and I'm wary of sweeping the highs. And I'll pull this level just so it's on the chart. We'll go back to, I am wary of sweeping the highs into this level with a sharp aggressive wick, coming back down and taking this trend line again, and then rallying. So I'm hoping these positions survive that, and I'm also willing to short signs of weakness up here, even if it ends up being a scalp that I close on weakness. And I'm willing to add on a fake out if the order flow looks good. Now there's always the possibility we just go straight up and we don't fake out, in which case I will just be carrying my longs to target, which my targets are 28K. And I have a lot of reasons for that target. I can turn them on here quickly. To the cleaners. Let's go to this. So I am expecting something along these lines to put in a bearish cipher into this level around 28.8K. There's a lot of technical targets for an Elliott wave count here. Triangles, which is why I was, I guess, a little bit fascinated by this idea of a triangle. Usually get found in wave 4s, and you can usually have strong impulses out of them. So that's what I'm looking for on Bitcoin, and I'm certainly interested in shorting up into this ascending channel idea, into this bearish cipher harmonic. And it's worth noting that from an Elliott wave perspective, you could certainly see something like this. These are actually relatively technical. I just don't have the levels on the chart. So we'd be looking for something like this, a B wave, this probably coming back up into the top of the channel somewhere around the 886. Maybe 786. Yeah, that'd be perfect. We don't need to get into this too much. It's very speculative, but that's what I'll be watching. And then looking for that 1618 extension for wave C. Could come into these lows, but you can also draw this a little differently. And there's a different variation of this count where this is all a corrective wave, and we see another leg down into the low. So anyways, this is going to be a very important swing short for me if we tab it and we see weakness. And that is my current analysis and why I'm long here. And I'll say this. I can make a pretty compelling case for longs here. I just did. I could make a case just as compelling for shorts. And that's the trouble with technical analysis. There are many valid technical ideas here. I'm sure you've seen many of them floating around on Twitter. I'm sure you all have many of your own. And in fact, I've had the idea of a major rejection from here. Let me turn off this cipher here. I'm gonna actually turn off this, and I'm gonna explain this because this is just an important idea fundamentally. I've had a target for a count even to this level, sweeping these highs. I've made videos on it over the last few months, and it's a major target, and there's actually valid Elliott wave counts that put these ideas in play, where the top is in, maybe with one more wick, and then we see a bigger rejection to 19.2K. And the reason I don't think that's likely at this point, in fact, when I longed here, when I longed the retest of this horizontal, my idea was to just long it up into these highs, and for this to be a major high where I'm looking for swing shorts. I'm still willing to take shorts. I wish I had that short from D. One of the reasons I wanted to have that short from that D wave I explained was in case this scenario plays out. But I'll say this. I don't like to spend too much time talking about 20 different scenarios. I do like to prepare for them by saying, I made it very clear in the Discord, and I think I even said on Twitter, that I am planning on shorting this D and holding that short to hedge against my ideas of adding to my longs in case this whole idea of a continuation is wrong, and then my shorts just carry. My longs get stopped and my shorts carry. I don't have that short because I missed it, but that was my idea, and I'm preparing for this case of a simple range. We sweep these highs and we reject, but I don't think it's the most likely scenario anymore. And I am going to usually focus on what I think is most likely, but talk about and prepare for other scenarios, which is still why I'm willing to look for shorts on weakness as we sweep these highs. But I'm still adding to my longs here because I think I want to look for technical entries for this continuation idea up to 28K. I don't see a reason not to. And I also have some bullish ideas on ETH that I alluded to on Twitter. And this is the daily chart on the ETHBTC pairing. And there's a decent case to be made for a higher degree wave 2 being in. We look back into 2019, this being our first impulse of a wave 1, 2, 3, purple being 3. And there's even a case, we'll see, depending on where this high comes in, for an extended wave 5 idea. And this means Bitcoin, we could see Bitcoin gain 130% against, ETH gain 130% against Bitcoin with some of the extended ideas. Now, all that to say, does that mean I'm just YOLO'd into longs on ETH and I up only? No, but I'm looking for nice long setups with nice invalidation, and there's order flow reasons that I expect higher. There's Elliott wave reasons I expect higher on Bitcoin and ETH, and so I'm willing to trade those. So that's my perspective here, and I'm willing to try to be patient and look for nice entries, and I think that's what I'm doing. So we'll see. Obviously, ETH has been lagging against Bitcoin. This is the ETHBTC pairing for some time, since the 2017 bull market. What kind of catalyst would it take for this to happen on ETH? Who knows? But this looks compelling to me, and it's actually quite technical, so we'll see. Anything can happen. This would have been, obviously, I think there's a decent chance that these longs hold, but this would have been quite a cool way to have traded this range. I don't like using the term masterclass, but in some sense, I think it would have been to have had a long, short, long. Obviously, bouncing off the trend line would be a little bit better, but grabbing the liquidity under the trend line certainly makes sense for Bitcoin. And now my goal is to manage my positions through probably some ensuing volatility here as we take the range, maybe fake out, maybe take this trend line again, and then see a continuation. Obviously, the easiest outcome would just be straight up because there's no short trigger, there's no weakness, and the longs just carry. But there's opportunities if that's not what happens. And so I want to prepare for those. I want to look for opportunities to protect my long positions with shorts if there's weakness. Look for opportunities to add to my longs if there's scenarios that make sense. And I just want to make a point of I am bullish on ETH, and I took longs here, and I got stopped out of those longs, and I did re-enter. And first off, I just want to say that risk management is super important. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I could win 20 trades in a row, and then not only have a stop loss get taken, I could be completely wrong about the direction of price. Price could go 100% the opposite direction of what I thought it was going to go. And so I'm always using stop losses. I'm always using risk management because there's no reason for me to get caught offside and take a devastating loss. But that being said, I also want to say there's nothing wrong with taking a stop loss. And I would say that regardless of if I had taken a stop loss or hadn't taken one in 10 years. And I'm also happy to re-enter here because I'm confident I'm making an objective decision. So I think some people, I pointed this out in the Discord too, they have rules where they say, if I've taken 1 or 2 stops in a day, I'm done for the day. I'm not going to re-enter. I don't want a revenge trade. And I think those rules can be very wise, especially for new traders. But for me, I trust my ability to be objective. I'm okay to take another stop. It doesn't make sense for me not to be long here. So I am. But all right, let me just read through some of the comments here really quick. Oh, I'll just point out really quick as well. The MiniSMP has been bearish today, but there are certainly ideas here for a bounce. And I do have targets. I know this doesn't look likely now. We've obviously been in a downtrend for some time, about 15% away. There's also some ideas where we could even see higher, where we do break out and take these highs before a deeper correction. That'd be in line with what I'm looking at on Bitcoin and ETH as well. Obviously, this looks quite bearish, especially if you pull off all the analysis. That does not look very bullish, because you could claim that all major bullish structure is breaking, right? We just have a simple trend line. It's breaking down. I look at things a little bit differently here. I'm looking at this ascending structure, and I can even remove some of this. This is important for this triangle idea, but it doesn't really matter here. Just pointing out that there's an intersection of this ascending structure and this descending structure, where this would be the technical. There's lots of different types of triangles, by the way. There's not just ascending and whatever, but they intersect, and this could certainly cause a reaction. But I'm looking at the structure as an ascending channel. Pulled from here. I'm anchoring it to the lows. We did wick through it here. You could anchor it to the wick, and if you did that, then it would be drawn a little differently. And you could kind of claim that we've maybe tapped it, depending on how you draw that channel. But I think this makes a little bit more sense. Certainly a region. But anyway, so there's bullish ideas here, potentially, of holding this channel and continuing up. But anything can become invalidated. Thoughts of sweeping the lows at 23.3K. I'll say this. Bitcoin loves grabbing liquidity. It loves trapping traders. Would it be out of the question to come in and sweep these lows? No. And that doesn't invalidate a bounce. I mean, you can't invalidate a bounce, right? Like if you're trying to figure out where you're going to long, you have technical levels and say we're in a range. I mean, anything in this range at support, these lows, this trend line, these lows can make sense. If there's a reaction, you reclaim the range. What would make it less likely that we sweep that low is that we have these massive bullish divergences between volume delta and price. When you see that, it's hard for price to push through those, but it can happen, and the bullish divergences would still be there and still be valid, even if we saw them. I pointed out here we had big bullish divergences forming on pullbacks, and I said that we could come down and have a deeper retracement, and we would, because these bullish divergences are against this low, as long as we don't take this low, if we go lower, the high time frame bullish absorption is still going to be relevant. It'll just be more extreme, and of course that's what happened. We came lower and we came into this key level. So that can always happen here. We could do a classic one of these and continue. So anyways, I'm open-minded to lower, but the problem with the problem with taking longs is, of course, you could just say, well, the best long would just be at the bottom right here, right? If we sweep these lows. But there's plenty of ideas where we don't sweep those lows, especially with the bullish absorption. If I had more bearish absorption up here, I would probably just be targeting a sweep of these lows. But because of the bullish absorption, I'm willing to take longs sooner because it's less likely that we do sweep them. So, and because of these structural Elliott wave ideas that may become invalidated here. I think you could argue this is certainly a wick. Break back below and grinding down would not be a wick, right? A wick with a quick buyback is a liquidity grab. Yeah. Someone says, so you're basically long hedge against your alt shorts. I'd like to be Bitcoin short as well, but the thing is, I'm taking the shorts at resistance, right? So if my longs are coming from support, it's actually kind of interesting. I took the long on Bitcoin at around the same time that I took my waves and Sol short, and the highs were coming in as the lows were coming in, and so I wouldn't open a short here on Sol and then long here on Bitcoin. My short's already in profit. So yes, they act as hedges, but you know, we've already seen substantial moves on these positions of 10-15%. So and I've taken profits off of them. So yes, they act as hedges to a degree. Of course, I'm just shorting resistance. And even if I had a short from here on Bitcoin, I wouldn't close it. I'd take a long, and I could still even just bring my stop loss on my short into profits. So it's not a loss regardless. I could leave it as a hedge with a stop at break even. But the on a local time frame, the idea would just be, well, you're taking a short at local range highs and you're longing local support, and letting price break whichever way it ought to. Someone says, nice, looking to join your Discord. When will slots open? The slots are always open. You just go to the website, which is in my Twitter bio. It should be in the description here. You can join anytime. Yeah. And sorry, I was going to do a live stream earlier. I got a killer headache. And I had to just get off the screen for a little bit. Do you think that crypto will separate from the SPX/SPI? SPY? Looks like stock market start dumping and second half of February is generally bearish for stocks. My current analysis doesn't suggest that that's required. I have kind of local medium time frame bullish ideas on both. They certainly could decouple. I don't think there's necessarily any reason to suspect they will suddenly. We don't really have any evidence of that. Of course, locally, sometimes they do. I appreciate that, Brains. He says, I planned on joining the Discord for 1 month, and 6 months later, I feel like I'd rather cancel a few other subscriptions like Spotify, Netflix, before I leave the LATF. It's that valuable to me. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's awesome, you know, as the community matures and is around for longer, it's awesome having OG members and people who've been around for a long time. Do I always look at Bitcoin before taking a trade on alts? Well, there's a couple ways to answer this. Yes, because I'm always looking at Bitcoin. So I always have a context for Bitcoin, both locally on a high time frame, and I'm always kind of watching order flow and weighing the probabilities. But I'm also aware that although alts generally move with Bitcoin, they don't always move with Bitcoin. And I actually made that exact point. I mean, obviously shorting Sol here. Let me. I made the exact point in the Discord because I was longing Bitcoin at the exact same time as I was shorting waves, and I said, and so the way I actually traded waves here is on a low time frame. I longed the breakout, and you could long the reclaim as well. There's a high time frame horizontal here. I'll just show it so we can get the here it is, so we can get the context. So here is a high. That's what's marked out on my chart. So now I'm going to go to the low time frame. I was targeting this 786 and looking for weakness up here, and so I longed the reclaim, and so we had a 10% move up into that level. And I said I'm looking to short this 786, and as we consolidated under it, I said I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for that pump in this local market structure. Even at this time frame, I'll look at the 1 minute because it's not really about the minute. I'm looking for the levels to be tapped and lost. And so as we're consolidating under the level, I said I'm waiting for this move up to sweep these highs into the level, and as soon as it did, I took my short with a stop above there. Ends up obviously being the high. Waves was certainly trending that day. I think it was the biggest gainer of the day, maybe. But I pointed out that we just pumped straight up on waves. It's certainly not correlated to Bitcoin locally, and I'm, February 19th at 1700 hours, I'm shorting waves. And February 19th at 1700 hours, February 19th at 1700 hours, I'm longing Bitcoin. So I'm longing at the exact same time on Bitcoin as I'm shorting on waves, and pointing out that in this case, I don't expect there to be a correlation. So that's a long-winded way of saying, yes, I'm always watching Bitcoin, but there are circumstances where I don't necessarily expect an alt to correlate to Bitcoin. Michael says it's excellent. I assume he's talking about the Discord. He said, would recommend. I've been trading for 4 years, but this means I don't have to pay as much attention. That's the one benefit, particularly for experienced traders. I guess I do all your analysis for you, and I just tell you when levels get hit. But in all seriousness, you know, if you're a brand new trader, I do not recommend coming into the Discord and trying to copy all my trades. I share all my ideas and my trades and when I enter, but the idea is to go over the technical reasons I'm taking the trade, what I consider my appropriate entry triggers, stop losses, and that. But it's an extension of all the educational materials. So there's educational content. I recommend any new trader would start with just the educational content and paper trading. Trade with fake money. Learn how to manage your positions and take technical entries, manage your risk. And after doing that for some time with success, then consider trading with live funds. So Shea is saying, how do you identify those circumstances? Is it just because of the high time frame resistance or support? You know, I'm not even gonna. It's not that I'm not willing to answer the question, but it's too nuanced. There's not really a simple answer. There's a lot of factors. Like I'll get questions a lot like, how do you tell where to put your stop loss, or how do you tell when to enter? Those factors change dramatically depending on the setup, right? There's not just I put my stop loss X% away, because depending on the setup, those factors are completely different. Chica says, I need to upgrade my trading view to alert me. Is there any free alert for price? I believe Bybit has free alerts built in. Okay, somebody says, how likely, this got asked earlier, but in a different way, how likely is it that we sweep the 23.3K low? There's no way for me to give by the way, this is my setup here. There's no way for me to give an exact answer to that. I don't know the probability. I can't say 20%, 50%. I can say I think it's less likely than likely. I think it's more likely that we don't, but that doesn't mean we can't. Do I ever feel like if the Discord gets large enough that we could become a liquidity pool if people copy your stop loss? Not really. No, on small cap alts, which I don't really trade, but smaller alts, yes. I mean, smaller alts, I can become a liquidity trap just by myself. So I have to be careful with size. But on Bitcoin and ETH, and I don't think it's something to be concerned about. There's much bigger traders in this market than, yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, I don't think that's something to be concerned about. Is there a minimum or maximum CVD time frame that you believe filters out the noise, or does it all depend on how long you expect your trade to run? I use all time frames. High time frame is good for just having a general perspective. Like it is very important to be aware. Let's go back to this messy chart and delete some lines. I think, anyways. I think it is very important to be aware of what. I just got to delete this out of my OCD here. of what happened here in CBD. This is a major decrease in CBD. And if we go to even higher time frames and we look, I mean, this is one of the more dramatic sell-offs and absorption ideas that we've had in a long time. And when lows come in, like you'll see big moves down in CVD and then price start reversing at bottoms often. Like right here, we see this big sell-off. Here we see this big sell-off, obviously. And there's bullish absorption here, right? And I don't want anyone to take this to mean, I just manage your risk, manage your own trades, do your thing. But obviously, you know, this is important to be aware of. We have this big sell-off, consolidation, and price starts moving up. But this is much more dramatic than anything we've seen actually in a long time. So I think it's worth being aware of this higher time frame idea. And you can also, but I'm also always looking at low time frame. I'll look at it on the 5 minute. Certainly I saw some members pointing out the bearish absorption forming on the move down here. But you can look at this low time frame just to look for ideas of continuation locally and a bounce locally. Like even here, it looks arguable that we have very local bearish absorption forming. And what can that mean? Sometimes that just on this low of a time frame, although after this huge bullish absorption it may not play out, I find these low time frame divergences actually play out quite often. And this is not like RSI, it's not like other indicators. This is showing you longs and shorts opening and being either supported or suppressed by limit orders. But sometimes it just means we see a local retracement and then put in bullish absorption locally. And you can argue after something like this, you can wait for the first retracement with bullish absorption for an entry. With a higher low, bullish absorption, CVD comes lower than price, a new low on CVD, higher low on price, and that can be an entry trigger. There's lots of ways to get into positions. You could also argue we have a swing failure and a reclaim here. But yeah, for sniping an entry, I'll use at key levels, oftentimes low time frame absorption. Okay, I am going to wrap this up soon. I got started a little later than I thought. But I did want to review a few things here on Bitcoin. My perspective as we still continue to range under resistance. Let me just look here. Are there course materials in the Discord? Yeah, so there's educational videos which go over a bunch of the concepts that some I've talked to today, some I haven't, a bunch of different concepts. They're usually about 15 to 20 minutes long, and there's some slides and written material, and then I think what people really like along with that is I give live market analysis and essentially live educational material every day. I review the charts and price and my setups and the logic behind them every day, pretty much. Chris Brown says, so much educational content in the group. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the probably the downside, if you don't have a ton of time, is there's maybe too much content. There's, you know, I'm producing maybe as much content as somebody can take every day without backlogging through some of the old content. Although I don't usually trade the weekend, so I guess there's a good time to catch up. All right. I'm going to wrap it up. Certainly, we have bullish ideas here in order flow. we have support ideas, we have Elliott wave ideas, but we have a rejection where price is coming down. We have local bearish market structure that has not been claimed with higher highs or higher lows. There's certainly some ideas where we see lower and we take the range lows. So, you know, waiting for reclaims of market structure, breaks. You could potentially argue this is a swing failure setup and we've reclaimed this low, but you could argue that here, although I think this is a little more significant with the bullish CVD absorption. So I wish you all a good evening and hope you gain some value out of this.